Hello and welcome back to another video. Today's Wednesday, so this is Waffle on a Wednesday, where I answer your questions to the best of my ability. And I'd like to start by saying thank you to everyone that sends in their questions. After all, if it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do a waffle on a Wednesday. Now, I didn't do a waffle last Wednesday because of the Jackery promotion. I didn't want YouTube to bump that video back, so that's why there was no waffle on a Wednesday last Wednesday. And on that note, I'd like to say congratulations to the two lucky winners of the Jackery 500 Explorers, and those two winners have been in touch with me, and I've now passed on their information to Jackery. Their Explorers will be with them very soon. And thank you to everyone that did enter that competition, because again, without you, none of that would be possible. So let's kick off this week's Waffle on a Wednesday by answering a question that I should have answered last time. And this comes from Bob, and he says, "Hi Mel, you forgot my question." Sorry Bob. "How do you avoid bedding getting damp in the winter months? Cheers Bob." Well Bob, I've made quite a few videos on this subject because it is something close to my heart. I actually suffered the consequences of a damp bed once a few years ago, and the consequences of that was I got a bad chest infection brought on by the black mould that builds up in your bedding. That black mould releases spores into the atmosphere, you breathe them in, and you end up very sick indeed. So it is something that I do feel quite passionate about. So what I'm about to share with you isn't an exact science, although it is something that I have learned over time through experience. So allow me to digress. So I truly believe that the mattress itself is the core reason for getting damp underneath it. If you have a thin mattress, your body heat transfers through that mattress, goes onto the board. If you have a solid board base, that solid board base is cold. Your body heat and moisture from your body goes through that mattress and then builds up underneath between the mattress and the board, and that's where your damp problem starts, and that's where your mould is going to start. So the best way I believe to avoid that situation is quite simply, and I'll just show you my mattress for example. I have literally an 8-inch deep mattress, and because it is such a thick mattress, my body heat hopefully doesn't transfer through to the base. But again, I don't have a solid base, I have slats under my bed. Yeah, you can see those slats in the camera, and that allows air to circulate underneath my bed. It stops that moisture building up. The other thing I have is a diesel heater. My diesel heater, I have channeled hot air to go underneath my bed, and when I made my diesel heater video about how I did it, I did get a lot of negative comments about this, because they say, well, the air's going under your bed but it can't escape anywhere. Well, it can escape because I've got a big gap at the back so the air can come up the back doors. Also my front doors, you'll notice there's a gap in these doors. That's not bad carpentry, that is actually done deliberately to let the air come out. So air circulation is key. That is the key thing to stopping any condensation in your van, is good air circulation, because as you breathe out condensation, and hence the vent. And the windows at the side, my windows are always open, my front windows are always open. I've got those wind deflectors on my front windows, and so my front windows are always open at least an inch, so it allows for good air circulation. I think that answers that question. Now, talking about my skylight, that's what the next question is about, and it comes from NG Cutting Services. "Why haven't you got your skylight in the middle?" Well done for spotting that. My skylight is actually off to one side, and there's two reasons for that, and one of them is because of the ribs in the roof. Now, if I put my skylight in the middle, it would have meant that it's sitting on top of two ribs, which would have formed a puddle in front of the skylight or behind the skylight, depending on the angle of my van, and I wanted to avoid that, so I thought it'd be a good idea to put it off to one side. Then that way the ribs go down the side of it, thus eliminating a puddle building up on the roof. Also, another reason it's off to one side is because I wanted this side of the roof clear, so that if ever I do get a kayak, I can put that on the roof, or a luggage rack of some description. So hence the skylight off to one side. I mean, why does it have to be in the middle anyway? There you go. Hopefully that answers that question. Now, Bobby Fisher would like to know what body filler I used. Not this body filler, we're not talking about food, we're talking about body filler on the side of the van for hiding rust and stuff. He says, "Mel, I've been trying to find your video you used body filler in. Was it U-Pole you used? If not, what body filler would you recommend? I would recommend a body filler called Easy Sand. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It is easy to sand. It's the only body filler that I've used for God knows how many years. So yeah, Easy Sand, available probably from good motor factor store or yeah, online. Yeah, just Google Easy Sand, you'll find it. It's good stuff, and it lasts a while as well. I mean, I buy a big tin and it's about 15 quid for a big old tin of it. It's what all the professionals use. Now here's a couple of positive comments on my last video when me and Rebecca went to the Coldrum long Barrow, and this comes from Adventures in a Van Diesel. I like that, that's funny. Van Diesel. Good name. We stayed there about 3 weeks ago overnight and had no issues. Well done. Next comment, pretty similar. This comes from Nathan Cheeseman. I stayed there the night, it was lovely and peaceful. Jammed my large motorhome down there too. Well done, Nathan. My Sprinter only just fit down that alleyway, so hey, you got a motorhome down there. Well, well done, that's all I can say. Thank you for the positive comments, both of you. Now here's a question that comes up quite often, and I do answer this question every now and again, so I will address it in this video, and that is, how do I cope living full-time in my van and not having a permanent address? And that comes from Colin Wilson. And now Colin, I'm not going to read out the whole question because it is quite extensive, but the gist of it is Colin wants to know how I cope with not having a permanent address. The simple thing is, I do have a permanent address. It's a care of address. So if you want to live full-time in your van, just get a family member or a trusting friend and use their address as your care of address. So when you fill out any forms, just put CO and then the address, so it clearly states it's a care of address. That's all you have to do, and that's perfectly legal to do that with anything. And Colin also asked how I get things delivered from Amazon. It's quite simple. All the time I've been living on Rebecca's driveway, I've had my Amazon delivered to Rebecca's address. All my other documents, all my legal documents, my van registration, my insurance, everything like that is all registered at my parents' address. Okay, hopefully that answers that question, and if you are thinking of living in a van, good luck. Do it. You won't regret it. Now Emerald Bren talks about a really good subject, and that is, do you have any issues with the clean air zones? Is your van Euro 6 engine? It seems an absolute minefield at the moment, and you're right, it is a minefield. Going into any city that has a clean air zone, you can end up getting slapped with a really hefty fine if your vehicle isn't clean air zone compliant. My van, for instance, is Euro 4, so the good thing about that is it's cheap to tax, but there are certain places I cannot go without having to pay a fee or pay a fine. And so if ever I do go into a city and there's the clean air zone sign comes up, I always check on a government website. There is a website you can go onto, you type in your registration and it tells you if you can go into that city, and if you do go into that city or that zone, how much you have to pay or how much you will be fined. Personally, I try and avoid anywhere like that, so yeah, but you can check online, but it is, like you say, an absolute minefield at the moment, and it can only get worse. Now Brian Howell asked quite a personal question. Are you living in the van full time, Mel? I thought you had a house. Well Brian, no, I don't have a house. I divorced that house about 10 years ago, and since then I've been living quite an alternative lifestyle. This van is my full-time home. I've got to say, I absolutely love it. I've got no regrets at all. Hope that answers that question. Now the next comment is a bit of a telling off. Bill Wallace, he says, "Hi Mel, I have to pull you up on the failing to say that wherever you get water, at a cemetery, sports field or garage, we should always do our best to get permission. Water is not free, and so it is always better to have asked otherwise. It is yet another reason for knocking those of us in motor caravans." Well Bill, I do apologise if you took any offence of my last video about where to get water, but I did say in that video, always ask permission where and when you can. So yeah, but thanks for bringing that up. Good point. And yeah, like Bill says, always try and get permission. Just don't help yourself to water. Yeah, it's rude, right? It's always polite to ask, and I did say that in the last video. So thank you Bill for bringing that up. Lola Casanova, I like that name, that's really good. Thank you, Mil, I appreciate your channel. Well, thank you, Lola, that's very kind of you. Hope all is well. Yes, it is, thank you. Installing a diesel heater, your install seems great. Would you change anything? It just so happens, Lola, yes, I would change something, and it's something I'm going to change very soon. I've just ordered another diesel heater, and that is because the diesel heater in my van is 5 kilowatt and it is way too big. It gets so hot in here so quick, even on the lowest of the lowest settings on that diesel heater. And not only that, I did mount it temporarily, and that was 3 years ago. It was a temporary install because I was building my van in the winter and it was cold, and I've got a bit of a gammy hand that hurts when it's cold. So it's something I do need to address. Also, when I do fit my 2 kilowatt heater, I'm going to fit it flat on the floor, diesel heater pump outside, so hopefully keeping it quiet, because at the moment my diesel heater pump is underneath my bench. So that's a video coming shortly, I would have thought. Yeah, I'm sure I'll make a video out of that. So that's something for you to look forward to. And if you are fitting your diesel heater, do follow the instructions that they give you and keep it simple, keep it safe. Good luck with your install, and thanks for the great question. Now, Paul Adson asked a really good question, and that is, when are you doing a new build, or are you just going to keep the current van? Well, Paul, my van is my home and I do intend keeping this for a few years yet. But Rebecca, on the other hand, she's going to sell her van, and when she's sold her van, she intends buying a much smaller van. So that is a van build coming up very soon, hopefully, if Rebecca manages to sell her van. And she did sell it a couple of weeks ago on eBay, but the buyer pulled out, unfortunately, so she will be relisting her van back on eBay very shortly. She's just going to MOT it first, because then she can sell it with a brand new MOT. Now, here's something that's really important. You must remember to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, if you've got any questions for me, do leave them in the comments section of this video and I will answer your questions next week. Thanks for watching this week's Waffle on a Wednesday. I'll see you very soon. Ta-ra for now.